and welcome to TechFunnel.com's interview series. My name is Danny White, and today we have joining us Ryan Foland. As a keynote speaker, podcast host, and managing partner of Influence Tree, Ryan Foland helps audiences harness the power of vulnerability and authenticity to build a more relatable and more profitable personal brand. With 4 TEDx talks, Ryan is recognized by Inc. magazine and Brand24 as a top marketer and named a top personal branding expert by Entrepreneur magazine. His book, Ditch the Act, Leveraging the Surprising Power of the Real You for Greater Success, will be published by McGraw-Hill in October. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Ahoy, it's great to be here, and I feel like I need to reduce the length of my bio.
No, that was perfect. So we're going to dive right in. One of the key focuses of your global message is this whole idea of buying into the creation of a personal brand, how people will buy into that. So what do you tell important stakeholders, everyone from the executive to the frontline employee, who say, why do we need a personal brand? The company already has a brand. What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them that if they believe that the existing company has a brand, they are correct. But if you look at that, it is the individual employees and executives and leaders within that organization that makes that brand. So just because your company has a brand doesn't mean that you don't need to support your internal employees and your internal leadership in building their own brand, because it's famously said that your brand is what people are talking about when you're not there. But if you take it one step further, the brand of your company is what people are thinking about the collective employees when neither the employees nor the company is there. So it's just going one step deeper. And at the end of the day, I really believe that you have to let people get to know you in order to like you, in order to trust you. And business is all about trust at the end of the day. And a brand is faceless if it's just the corporate brand. And we're in a day and age where people are sick of corporate messages. They're just, we've been hit over the head so many times. There's so much noise that studies even show brand messages that come from the accounts of the employees have like over something over like 500 times the engagement and reach, because it's people trusting people. So absolutely. For those people who have brands and basically point to the bigger brand, the best thing they can do is step in front of that and say, look at me. Here's what my brand does as an individual and why I'm so excited about supporting this larger brand ethos.
Absolutely. So when a lot of company executives, they come to you for your advice and your suggestions on how they can lead authentically. What do you tell leaders who want to lead authentically, but are perhaps maybe going through the motions, or they fear leading authentically? They have it up here that they want to lead authentically, but they're actually not doing it. So what do you tell them?
Okay. So the concept is that nobody wants to go first.
Absolutely.
Whether it comes to explaining, like let's say you have a group of people and they're like, oh, how you doing? I'm doing great. How about you? Things are great. I'm great too. It's like, okay. But then there's that one person who's like, actually, I had a really bad day so far. I this, I that, whatever. And then all of a sudden the people who just said everything's great is like, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. And I had this miscommunication. So the thing that I tell them is that nobody wants to go first, but everybody wants to go second.
Absolutely.
And the next time that you're in a conversation, you hear somebody who tells you honestly that like maybe they had something frustrating happen, instinctively you want to share something that relates to them. And so for those leaders who aren't willing to go first, they're doing a disservice because they're holding back their other employees from actually opening up. And in a work environment, there's this pressure because your boss is paying you, right?
Absolutely.
And so yes, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But if you walk in as a leader or an executive and you're like, well, I hope your day's going better than mine because I just did this, and this. Like, all of a sudden the employee's going to be like, he or she is human. That totally happened to me. And so for those executives that maybe are wanting to lead more authentically, but maybe don't know those practical steps how, this is one of the things that we talk about in our book. I believe that leaders understand the importance of authenticity. I don't think that you can pull anybody off the shelf and say like, so authenticity, good or bad? I don't think anybody's going to say like bad,
right.
especially when they're in leadership positions. But the truth of the matter is that if you've been putting your, let's call it your Facebook life or your filtered life or all of the good that has happened to you, but you haven't really shared the bad or your version of ugly, then you're missing an opportunity to create connection, which is authentic, which is what happens as a real person. And so authenticity can be really thought of as what you're sharing and how you're sharing it. So we talk about 5 levels of exposure. If all you've had is good and that's all that people see, it's very hard to make a jump and go good, all of a sudden bad. People are like, whoa, they're losing their stuff. They're losing it, right? Yeah. Because all they know is this image that you put out there. So we have 5 levels of exposure that you can use to work up to exposing yourself. And the first is silly, stupid stuff that you say or think that you don't think has any value, like forgetting your belt at the gym or finding that your clothes are on inside out. You didn't even notice, or something that happened with a pet or a missed connection on a vacation, something that's super, super low level. Like, I'm so lazy right now, but I'm hungry, but I'm too lazy to go to the fridge, even though the fridge is right there. Like,
right there.
And so as soon as you start to expose these level 1 exposures, you'll see people start to react and start to engage in the conversation and online in the content. If I have a tweet that says, I'm speaking at Inbound, it's not going to get as much traction as saying, I just forgot my gym shoes and I'm contemplating whether or not I work out in my dress shoes. Like something that's silly.
Yeah.
So it's really about finding that balance between business and personal, but personal is actually like personal. It gets people to get to know you. And when they know you, then they can actually like you and they can trust you. So for executives that want to lead more authentically, start to share the little things that are going wrong. And then that'll warm you up and people start to share. And then you can work to level 2, which is challenges with relationships. And then level 3, which are, life changes and things that are drastic. And 4 is business failure. And level 5, you don't expose. So it is ignorant for me to say that I am going to teach you how to be more authentic. That's not authentic. But if we show you how you can share in a more authentic way at lower levels to build up, then you really bond. Like for the people that I've worked with, that I've had the closest relationships with, they're the people I can walk in, shut the door and tell them about the stuff that's really going wrong in my life.
Absolutely.
And then when the door opens, you're like, I feel good. That's off my chest. I don't have to worry about it. So it's all about baby steps and exposing what's going wrong to help people connect.
Interesting. So how does having a better personal branding policy, what kind of effect does that have on maybe sales or marketing or even human resources within a company?
Great question. And typically the response of an executive or an owner when they have to look at helping their employees build their personal brand is like, well, why am I going to invest in them so they can just go get another job? That's typically what this idea is, right? But we live in a different world. And if you look at executives, if you look at people in positions, even you are a specialist. You are really good at what you do, but that's not enough.
Right.
Today, you have to have that documented. If you were going to go look for a new job, you couldn't just say, yeah, I did this and this. You'd have to be like, look, right here. Right. Look at all these podcasts I did. Look at all this stuff. Look at all these views. Look at all this. Look.
Right.
So if your skills are not documented, people don't know that you actually have the skill level that you have. So what companies can do right now in order to support the personal brand is allow opportunities for documentation. And that means inviting an employee to write an article for their LinkedIn account, or saying, how about you help us with some product reviews? Or why don't you go represent us on stage? And for the employee, that is going to help them be seen as an expert in what they're doing. But then you're able to get the brand halo because they're at that conference representing your company.
Absolutely.
So it's selfishly a way to give the employees what they need to advance their professional careers, not just with opportunities, but with documentation. And once they can document it, then they have a digital footprint. And then people will start to follow and see them. Who do they work for? It makes sense. And I believe that the more you invest in your employees, the more they don't want to go anywhere because they don't want to have to reinvent the wheel at another company that doesn't support their professional growth.
Absolutely. Awesome. So let's say that we're going to switch gears a little bit. Let's say that a company is under attack. Maybe they did something really, really crazy. There's plenty of examples. Does a better branding strategy help when a company's under attack or a company's culture is under attack? Let's take Uber, for example. Does redeveloping your personal branding, does that help in those kind of situations?
Yes. And the reason why investing in the personal brands of your employees and supporting will help you when your culture or your brand is under attack is because you can put a face to the blame. And it's very hard to forgive a company because there's no face. That's the company that they did.
No personal accountability there.
No personal accountability, no.
Yeah.
But if you have high-level executives that are stepping in front of the company and saying, I know that you see what's happened here, but personally, I will take this responsibility, or this is the steps that we're doing. We live in a world where mistakes are made, but it's a lot easier to forgive a human for somebody who's, look at all these public figures. They're doing all kinds of things that are technically like really, really bad. And we see it and we know it and we're like, oh, but then they humble themselves and then they make their public statements and then they get out there and you're still kind of like, but then you actually see that if they've learned, if you see that they've changed as a person, you can get that because we've all made mistakes. And that's where having a personal brand lets people see and connect with you. It is a way to diffuse and to more quickly get in front of it. So Papa John's is a good example. There was some really bad publicity and press around the owner who his behavior was inappropriate. But they had a whole campaign where they got frontline employees to delivery people to people in their upper management, all of them reaffirming, this is what I stand for. This is my Papa John's. This is why I work here. And after you watch these videos, you can't help but empathize and be like, I can see how it's not really any one person's fault. It's the company's fault, but I'll forgive you, but not necessarily the company. So it's a buffer of human nature, essentially.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about your book coming out with Leonard Kim, Ditch the Act. You've given us, I believe, these 5 levels are actually in the book. So tell us a little bit more about the book. Where can readers find it, and where can they find out more about you online?
Yeah, so you can go to ditchtheact.com, and we also have that as a handle on all platforms. And Ditch actually has his or her own Twitter account, its own Twitter account. So if you want to interact with a book on Twitter, you can follow Ditch the Act there.
Awesome.
And really, the book is not only a story of how to articulate and execute your authenticity, but it's also a step-by-step guide of how to use that to build your own brand. One thing that I want to make sure people understand, this isn't a social media book. And these principles, they work just as well offline as they do online. And it's really a chance for us to share how our own individual lives and our failures, that is the one thing that has helped us to find our success.
Absolutely.
For the people who are living their Facebook good life, but they want to know how to become more authentic, or they have a large following, but not much engagement, this book is something to show you that, being more human is actually the way to differentiate yourself. Because you might act a little bit differently in front of your family members, a little bit differently at your professional work, and then a little bit differently when you're out playing hockey with your buddies.
Right.
And you have to manage all these different ways that you interact or the way you bring yourself. But if you start to realize that there's a thread line between all of them, and you start to actually reduce the pressure by sharing what's actually going wrong and your version of ugly, then you don't have to hide behind a fake facade. And you'll actually see that the manager maybe you didn't have a relationship with before, you can actually build a better relationship. Because remember, nobody wants to go first.
Absolutely,
and so if you go first, somebody else is going to relate to that. And I think that for those people that, we all have skeletons in our closet. There was a couple instances in my life that I literally said, this thing happened to me and all I want to do is hide it. I want to put it into a barrel and ship it and hide it so no one ever finds it. And that actually backfired and sort of popped up at the worst part for me to even have that exposed. And Leonard was able to help me understand the importance of getting in front of things. And so if you slowly start letting out and exposing level 1, level 2, level 3, start building these better connections, and then it translates to engagement. It translates to trust. And it's amazing the feedback that we're getting from this. And Leonard and I initially joked about our big pie in the sky for this. And we said, we would love for this to be a modern day how to win friends and influence people in the digital age. And we had actually a very respected author who read it and replied and said, I believe this is a modern day how to win friends and influence people.
Wow.
And
That's
so,
incredible.
Pick my jaw up off the ground. Like, if that's truly what it's going to do for people, we're really excited. And one of the favorite things as far as the process of the book is that co-authoring it with Leonard, we were really able to push each other for our best content. And I really think it's our best work. He'd write something and I'd read it and I'd challenge him on it, and we'd get in a kind of a heated argument debate over it. And that would create only the best content left. I'd be working on one of our worksheets. By the way, we have 12 worksheets in here that on their own will help you to build an authentic bio. We have the 313 method, which I'm famous for because it helps you package your messaging into a smaller space. 12 of these things. And so he would challenge me. He'd be like, no, that doesn't look right, or that sucks, and it can be better. And I'd just be like, oh, and I'd use that anger and I'd get back at it, right?
And you'll make it better, yeah.
Yeah, the classic Jim Carrey gif when he's like, ah.
Yeah.
So I really think that we both, in the process, pulled the best information out of us. And we really try to show how our examples of sharing has helped us to create success and then stack that success. And we have a number of individuals, from frontline employees to people who run major companies, and we're showing how their ditching the act has helped them find success too. So we really are excited about the message to let people let their authenticity shine so that they can be the ones going first, so that everyone else wants to go second.
Awesome.
In order to connect.
We're excited for that book as well. Where can people find out more about you?
So ryanfoland.com is the zone. And then I live on Twitter if I had to choose one platform.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for your time today. We're excited about the book when it comes out in October. We really appreciate your time and for all the insights that you've shared with our audience. Guys, thanks for listening to this interview. For these and other interviews and topics, please feel free to visit techfunnel.com. You can connect with us across social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the industry. Thank you so much, Ryan.
You're welcome. Adios.
All right.